Hello, welcome to Today in the Word, and I'm here with the author of this month's devotional on 1st and 2nd Peter, Brad Baurain.
Hi, I'm very privileged to be a professor at Moody Bible Institute and to be training students in using English as a second language for ministry, both in North America and throughout the world. It's an extra privilege to get to write for Today in the Word.
Yes, so you have students in the classroom and students around the world, really, through this devotional.
I've got students on Zoom. I've got students in the room. I've got students on the other side of the planet. I sound like I'm Dr. Seuss now.
Well, I think that's one of the beauties of technology. We have actually a growing audience in the Philippines and Uganda and Nigeria and Ghana. We've been hearing from a lot of people that don't have access to devotionals otherwise. So, well, let's talk about your study of 1st and 2nd Peter. We've titled it Our Present and Future Hope. Tell us though first, because the letters are named after the author, tell us who Peter is for those who might not know.
Right. Well, you can find out quite a bit about Peter by reading the Gospels and by reading the book of Acts. And you might be surprised that a guy like him would be picked to write two very important epistles. He's the guy who couldn't stay quiet on top of the Mount of Transfiguration. Jesus once told him, "Get thee behind me, Satan." Apparently,
Yeah.
he joined the other disciples in arguing about who would be the greatest. He doesn't sound terribly promising, but God chose him. Jesus chose him as one of the 12 disciples, and he was considered to be the leader of the church in Jerusalem. And he learned quite a bit along the way, including humility, as we can see in these letters.
Yeah, so he has a strong personality. He's one of these people that a lot of people relate to in scripture, especially if they have that kind of strong emotional base. What was going on in Peter's life at this time, and who was he writing to?
He was ministering to believers in Western Asia.
Okay.
So if you look on a map and you look where Europe is, then you just kind of turn your head to the right, and countries like Turkey and Greece, and then into Western Asia. And they were he addressed them as God's elect exiles, which is kind of wonderful to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's no greater privilege than to be chosen by God. That's what the word elect means. But they were living in exile. They weren't living in Israel. They weren't living in their home country. The church was becoming a worldwide phenomenon, not just a Jewish thing. And he wasn't writing to one church like, when Paul wrote to Ephesians, it was the church in Ephesus. He was writing to probably dozens of Roman provinces scattered throughout the empire at that time. And they were undergoing some tough things. They were being persecuted for their faith. They were suffering, facing external challenges. And they were also facing internal challenges because there were false teachers that were trying to infiltrate the church and corrupt the gospel. So there were some pretty serious challenges that were facing the churches that he was writing to.
So they were people in need of hope.
They were definitely in need of hope.
Yeah.
The hope of salvation, which, as we know, is not a dicey, wishful thing, but a sure thing. And more importantly, not an abstract thing, but a person, right? Peter writes very directly that Christ is our living hope. And it's nice to know that our faith and hope are certain. It's as good as if they've already been accomplished. I feel more loved when I know that my hope is a living person with
Yes.
whom I will get to spend eternity, and by whose blood I am saved.
Yes. And Peter had met Jesus face to face. So, you have that, when he's speaking of it, it was his current life, like what he had experienced personally. What can a reader, we usually end with takeaways. What can people expect from this study?
I would take away a couple of things. One is simply meditating on the idea of Christ as our living hope. You pick up the newspaper, you see wars You see natural disasters. You see church leaders having sinned. You see all this bad news. And I think we are in need of hope in the present and hope for the future. And we don't know what is going to unfold. We do know that Christ will return and our salvation will be completed. But in the meantime, it's encouraging to walk right now, right here, with Christ, our living hope, through whatever comes, unknown, known, whatever.
Well, I think those are good things we can take away. And I know that everyone will enjoy the study. And thank you for all the work you put into it.
It's been a privilege and a pleasure. And I do hope that readers around the world will not only get something out of it, but when they have conversations on the app or on the website, that they'll be sharing their insights with each other and encouraging one another.